All right, there we go. Well, welcome, friends, and thank you for joining this webinar on launching your fall campaign, getting ready for your stewardship campaign in your congregation. We are ready to go with a lot of resources to help you make this a very successful campaign season in your congregation. We want to make sure you have the tools and a little bit of the pep rally that goes into our stewardship season. My name is Davey Gerhard, and I'm the Executive Director of TENS, the Episcopal Network for Stewardship. And I'm joined here today by Steve Welch, the Executive Director of Invite, Welcome, Connect. And together, we're going to share with you some tools and tips on how we can keep our congregations ready to go. And a little message to my friend Steve. Would you let people in to the waiting who are in the waiting room? Will you do that while I'm presenting, please? I'd appreciate that.
Absolutely, Davey.
Thank you. All right, let's talk about our learning objectives today. I want to talk first about some statistics across the Episcopal Church, some things that we are seeing, and some trends that we might want to alleviate and make better. So while we are continuing to do this work, let's talk a little bit about some of the trends that we're seeing. I also want to spend some time talking about how we initiate these conversations on money and faith, give you some practical tools to help people understand that their money and their ministry are tied, and that this is one of the ways that we grow the kingdom of God and do this work. So let's make these mission-focused conversations. We're going to talk a little bit about the weird year that is 2025 and some of the challenges that we are facing in our congregations and in our economy as we tackle with the roller coaster that is this year. We'll talk a little bit about some things that you can do in your church finances to recession-proof your finances and address things now while you still have time. And finally, we're going to end with the TENS questions and the TENS resources that we have ready for you this year, and things that are going to help you run a campaign and get ready to go. So I'm looking forward to this time together. Let's start off with some good news, bad news. In the Episcopal Church in 2024, which are the most recent numbers that we have, we did continue to decline. Okay. We've been seeing this trend for about a decade now, and we know that it exists. If there's any good news in this number of 2.6 decline, it's that we declined less last year than in previous years. It was almost 6% in 2023. So that we came in under 3 in 2024 is some slightly better bad news. But that's not good. When we decline in membership, we know that that makes our congregations less resilient, and it makes our work more fragile. And we know that that's ultimately not a sustainable trend for us. So we need to work on that. Fortunately, we're here with Invite, Welcome, Connect that can help give us some resources on how to make our congregations welcoming and ready to accept new people. And that talks specifically to this next statistic. Almost 11% increase in Sunday attendance in 2024. This feels like an opposite statistic from a decline. But what it's telling us is that we have folks who are coming, folks who are showing up in church. Maybe they haven't yet signed on the dotted line or become members of our church in the ways that we count them as official members, but they're there, they're showing up. This tells us a few things. The pandemic decline is done. People are coming back to church, and that we have lots of visitors, people who are curious about us and the good news that we have to share. So let's make certain that we are ready to accept these people, ready to welcome them, and ready to connect them into our congregations through good discipleship, formation, and stewardship.
And Davey, if I
Yeah,
could add
yeah,
something
please.
there, I think one of the things that reflects that attendance is up, but membership is not, is because people are less interested in that kind of formal relationship now. That they don't want to go through the hoops that we all went through to join our church. They want to attend our church. And yes, they're going to contribute to the church, but they don't want to pledge. They don't want to, they don't want to make that a formal relationship until they've really gotten into the groove and been part of it. So I think we shouldn't worry that much about who's a member and who's not a member. It's if they walk in their doors, they're part. If they walk into your doors, they're part of your community, and treat them that way. And don't push them to do things that they might not be comfortable with. They're getting their toe back in after probably being gone throughout the pandemic, maybe longer. So being welcoming, being accepting, being loving is way more important than getting somebody to sign on the line and say, "Here's your pledge card."
Absolutely. One leads to the next, or, and we'll talk about this later when we talk about younger members. Some of them may never sign on a dotted line. They may never fill out pledge paperwork, and that's just fine with us. What's important is that they're connected and participating in our communities. More about that later. So let's talk a little bit about what we're seeing on the money front in our congregations. The good news is that last year we saw almost a 5% increase in the overall amount contributed in our congregations. So that tells us that people are very generous, that people are increasing their giving and making so the message is getting out there and people are being generous. And that we saw an average increase in pledge amount that slightly outpaced our inflation. That's good news. But more people, fewer people giving more money is ultimately an unsustainable trend. So we really want to encourage our congregations to pay attention to that, and think about how we create opportunities for people to engage in our congregations and in our ministries. All right, that's enough bad news and statistics. Let's talk about the things that we can do in our congregations to ensure that we run really good campaigns and that we do welcome people and enroll them in our ministry as partners. We want to talk today about formation. We want to talk about focusing on the mission, making certain that our members understand that their gifts are tied to outcomes and impact in our neighborhoods. We want to use storytelling to communicate that. We're going to talk a lot today about how to tell stories about our involvement and our engagement and how to inspire our members through those stories. We're going to do a little plug to remember planned giving to make certain that that is a part of your stewardship program and keep that front of mind or at least middle of mind for folks so that they can understand the relationship between giving now and giving forever. And then we're going to talk a little bit about donor-centric fundraising, meeting our members where they are and making the kinds of gifts that make sense for them and that they want to make.
Davey, wanted to point out a question in the chat that from St. Philip's in Annapolis. They're asking, so we say that that's not sustainable. Why is it not sustainable?
So fewer people giving more money in the long run, that will tap out. At some point, we won't be able to keep up with fewer people giving increased gifts. This is because people can't increase their giving forever. And if the number of people, of donors continues to decrease, at some point we're going to slide into a place where our income is no longer in a sustainable place to meet the folks that are there. And so that's why it's overall an unsustainable trend. It feels like good news. More money in the system is better, right? But if that more money is coming from fewer people, it means that those large gifts are vulnerable. If that person is no longer able to make that gift for whatever reason, then we see a real decline in our congregation's overall ability to be sustainable and resilient. So that's why we want to make sure that our numbers and our gifts increase together, so that there isn't a disparity between number of people giving and amount giving. We want both of those to increase rather than to see one go down and the other go up. I hope that answers the sustainability question.
And there was an earlier question that I missed, and I apologize for that. On your statistics slide, Marcia asked if it was unclear on the slide, 3.6% in average pledge amount. Is that an increase or a decrease?
It was an increase. So lots of increase in the average pledge amount outpaced inflation. Good news. All right, Steve, you've got some things to talk about in stewardship.
Yeah, one of the reasons that I think Invite, Welcome, Connect and tends gel so well is because we don't focus on the results of what we're talking about, the ministry, the growth in revenue, the growth in number of people who come in, because that's sort of beside the point. We say that in this situation, that stewardship is the fruit of what we do. It's not the focus. Stewardship, as you know, I hope you know that it's what people do when they really care about the church that they're part of, or whatever they're part of. And that's what Invite, Welcome, Connect does. We focus kind of upstream, creating conditions where people are become vibrant parts of your community, and as a result of that, they support the community. And so that's why we say, think of stewardship not as a campaign, but as a culture. It's part of our theology. It's part of our discipline. If you're a good churchgoer, you support the work of the church, whether it's keeping the lights on in the building or outreach missions. And it's not just about dollars; it's also about participation. It's voting with your feet. It's being the hands and feet of Christ in the world and in the church. And so, in our ministry, we focus on when people feel invited, they engage in the church. When they feel welcome, then they actually stay. And when they're connected, they give in all kinds of ways, financially, but with their service as well. And that's a part sometimes that we fall down on in the Episcopal Church, that we want people to come in, so we're inviting them, and great, we'll do everything we can to get people in the doors. When they're there, we invite them to coffee hour, we become friendly with them. But I think sometimes we're a little bit hesitant to open up the doors to really help people be connected, because that connection means giving them a level of power too. We want people to come into our church and become exactly like us. Well, people bring their own talents, and people bring their own way of doing things. And we have a tendency in the Episcopal Church, or in a lot of churches, to tell those people, well, that's not how we do it here. When people come in, we want them to change, but we also want them to change us. And that's part of the focus of this ministry.
Absolutely. No change required. Welcome and be yourself and come and join us. We have a great community for you ready to go. I see a question from Nell. Thanks for this question. Are we looking at a future where people rarely pledge, but only put their donations in the plate or send one-time or even recurring gifts without a yearly commitment? We're going to drill down on that in a little bit, Nell, and talk a little bit more about some of the trends that we're seeing in the way people are making gifts. But in general, I think that a lot of folks are shying away from pledge paperwork. This is going to make some change for our treasurers and the way we create budgets, especially our young generation. And I'll talk more about that later when I talk about meeting our members where they are. But yeah, I think that in general, we need to be accepting of the way folks want to make their gifts. We have a system that's worked for us for a long time, pledge and plate, but we also have ways that people like to make their gifts through securities or other ways, and those might be one-time gifts. So let's talk about more options rather than fewer options. And we'll drill down on that more now as we go through this webinar today. Thanks for that question. So where we start in good stewardship practices in congregations is with formation. If the first and only time you're talking about sharing your gifts with your congregation is at the annual pledge campaign, You've missed all the rest of the year to be able to help people connect gratitude with their generosity, to participate, to understand how their gifts fund and create ministry opportunity for our neighbors and grow the kingdom of God. So this is a plug, a reminder for us not to neglect the opportunity to do some teaching on stewardship theology throughout the year. TENS offers some resources in this. Our campaigns run year round. So we have seasonal reflections that start in Advent of every year and go right through Pentecost. And so every time the color changes, there's another seasonal reflection. And that is a little reminder that throughout the year, there are things that we can be grateful for, things that we can remind people we have impact and connection into our community, and your gifts consistently sustain our membership. This isn't to say that we're shaking people down for the whole year, but we're reminding them that their gifts are generous ways that they contribute to growing the kingdom of God. So please use those materials. I invite our preachers out there to preach a stewardship sermon in the middle of the year that isn't tied to the campaign. It doesn't end with, and you can pick up your pledge forms at the back of the church, right? So it just connects our gratitude with the gospel, and our response to the gospel is one of generosity. And so help people make that connection when there isn't an ask on the line, when people aren't being asked to participate immediately in renewing their giving or making a gift, but just remind them that this work is ongoing, that it's a consistent part of the gospel. And Jesus makes it really easy, by the way, for that to happen. 40% of Jesus' ministry, 16 of the 40 parables, are about money, stuff, things, and our attachments to them. There's a reason why in the first century, as well as the 21st century, we're making that gospel connection between the things that we have, the gifts that we've received, the generosity we've experienced, and our ability to share that with our neighbors for the purpose of ministry, for the purpose of growing the kingdom of God. So remember that we can step right into the gospel tradition of talking about money and our attachments. They are faithful messages of stewardship and gospel throughout the year. Think about offering a book study in a small group or as a part of your adult formation program or something like that. A great little tool or study on stewardship, generosity, abundance. There are a lot of books out there, and if you look in our resource library, you can find an annotated bibliography of stewardship reading list that gives you some great books that are thick and thin, and are great for connecting people with their generosity and their gratitude. So do some formation around this. The idea here is that we want people to understand stewardship as a part of the discipleship, that sharing their gifts of resources, relationships, and their responses to that is a part of how we encounter this work in the world and how we engage. So do some formation this year. Inspire folks with your mission. Talk about what you do with the money that you raise, with the time that your members volunteer, with the great ideas that they have to create new ministries or to strengthen existing ministries. Those gifts of time, talent, and treasure, the ways that we engage our whole selves. Every one of those gifts is a gift that inspires us to focus more on the mission. Because when we share our gifts, we share our enthusiasm for giving those gifts with the world, we're stepping right into that prophetic tradition of seeking, serving, saving, healing, feeding, loving our neighbor. And that's what we're called to do. So talk about this with the ministries that you run every week and tie it to the impact on your community. Talk really specifically about your neighbors, how their lives are improved, how your town is improved, how your neighborhood is better, how your members are more confident and cared for as well. And when we talk about mission, let's remember it's not just about your external focus ministries, but it's also your internal ones, our pastoral care, our education, the way we love each other, the way we provide for each other. Those are also beautiful gifts of ministry that we need to remember and encourage. Ask questions about what your church means to your town or the people who are being served by your church or your neighborhood. Testimonials are a great way to make that connection happen. Testimonials are so powerful because they're authentic. They are peer to peer, member to member. I'm a real person engaging with you, a real person talking about my passion, my desire for change, the way I want to help the world. I'm sharing my reasons for connecting with the gospel and the particular ministries of this church. So, if you do any kind of testimonial work during your pledge campaigns, we call them minutes for mission in my church, but you might call them something different or have a different approach. But do some storytelling. I find that it's helpful to provide some prompts when you ask someone to tell their story so that they have a place to begin or some idea of what you'd like them to talk about. Otherwise, they won't know where to start that. Just helps everybody stay on script, but create some prompts like why did you pick this church and why did you keep coming back? What made it feel like home to you? Who connected you? I love that question. Who was the first person that you connected with in this congregation? And they'll talk about the person who handed them a bulletin or showed them where to sit or brought them a cup of coffee at coffee hour. These deeply intimate personal moments that people will remember for decades. Think about that when you ask your ushers to do their work. They are starting that relationship with our members. Ask what program or ministry that resonates with them, that inspires them, that they love, that they want to talk about. I give to this church because I love our youth program, or I love our food pantry, and I love seeing how that impacts our world. These personal stories of connection with ministry, tell those stories and encourage your members to do that. I love asking parents who have kids in Sunday school, what do your kids talk about when they come home? Do you ask them, what did you learn in Sunday school today? And do they have answers? Do they just say it was fine? That was my answer. But do you engage with them to hear the stories that they tell? And do they teach you new things about old stories that you've heard before? These connection points, especially in our folks who are raising families in the church, we want to connect them and their families to the ministry and to the gospel. So ask them, what are you learning about, and what do your kids teach you? And the most powerful question, perhaps, to ask is, when was the church there for you when you really needed it? In a difficult moment in your life, in a moment where you're feeling lonely and needed connection, in a time when you were new to a city and you wanted to meet new people and create new opportunities. Tell those stories. Invite people into those stories because they are deep, resonant, connecting places between our own passion and the ministries that our churches offer. Another kind of story that we need to be telling are about the impact of our ministries in our community. I like to call these ministry impact reports, but if you feel like that's too slick and markety, you can find something more missional related to them. But let's tell stories about how our ministries change the lives of our neighbors and our communities. Ask volunteers who run your programs or who work in them, or if it's appropriate, even people who benefit from your ministries, to talk about what the program means to them. For example, maybe if it's appropriate to share from a family perspective who receives a box of food from your food pantry. What does that mean food security in their family. Um, Tell that story, bring those stories back into the church so that you can remind your members that this work changes lives. This is who we are and how we work together. Ask them what joy they have in serving. I love asking volunteers, why do you show up on a Saturday morning and do this work? What does it mean to you? What do you get out of it? It's not glory, so what is it? And they tell these beautiful stories about impact and personal connection with people, the friends that they make. Those are great ministry impacts. If you are getting mailings from other nonprofits that you might support, your school, your local arts organization, your local civic organization, whatever it is, you are seeing numbers and impact in those materials. They are telling you that your gift to a homeless shelter housed this many families, or they're telling you that your gift to the symphony really made a difference because it made music accessible to kids in school, or whatever it is, right? Tell those stories too and use numbers to do it. We fed 1,500 families last year. Wow, that's great. 1,500 families that are no longer experiencing food insecurity because of our work. That's big news. We gave away 200 backpacks stuffed with school supplies, and kids went away to school feeling confident and prepared and ready to learn. Tell the stories and the numbers and in the impact, because that reminds us there's no waste in our giving. Every dollar goes to ministry. Every ministry has a purpose, and that purpose is to seek and serve and feed and meet the stranger and to love them. That's our work. We do that work and we report back on that work. I think our churches often are very shy about talking about the good results that their work does in the community. Don't be shy. Um, be excited. This is a part of the good news that we have to share. Let people know that the work they support really has an impact.
Yeah, Davey, I can't stress enough how important storytelling is to people feeling connected to your church, and that's why I think that these testimonials or storytelling or witness, if you're in some church backgrounds, should be year round. It's something that it empowers lay people to share their stories about their journey, and it's not just about stewardship. It's about everything that is part of their spiritual journey. We know that people grow spiritually and grow more connected by talking about their faith journey. It's in sharing that we actually receive. And then hearing other people's stories do the same for us. It inspires us. We hear about ministries that we were maybe wondering about but hadn't been part of. Um, and just from a practical standpoint, it avoids that perception that, oh, Bill's up at the front of the church, and they're going to be asking me for money now. It's not, it becomes an organic part of your church experience where people have regular lay people have an opportunity to talk not just about the announcements, there's a picnic coming up on July 3rd, but about what brought them into this church, why they're staying here, what impacts it has had on them, and how the work they've done in the church has impacted the community as well. There's the cliche, if your church disappeared tomorrow, would anybody care? Storytelling is how we let the congregation know that what we do beyond those nice hour and a half on Sunday is important to our community and to the people around us. It actually matters. And that, my friends, is a way of ensuring stewardship. If you're part of something that matters, you support that. And I think a lot of our worship sometimes becomes so self-focused. It matters to me, but does it matter to anybody else? And the answer should be yes, and you should be telling that you should be giving that answer to people.
I love that. Thanks for reminding us that we do this work all the time, not just Don't just tie it to your campaign. This is a part of our ongoing work of discipleship and reminding people about their impact. Um, when we only do storytelling at the campaign time, it starts to feel manipulative. It starts to feel, and we don't want that. We want campaigns that are transformational, not transactional. And this is a real big uh, difference between how we ask people to share their gifts versus just asking people to donate money. We want people to really feel that sharing comes from a place of love and commitment and connection and not just a place of duty or obligation.
I love that phrase, transformational, not transactional.
Well, thanks. We're using it all over tens this year. I want to remind folks that planned giving is a consistent part of a robust stewardship program. Planned gifts or legacy or estate giving are ways that people can make their gift, endow their pledge. Sometimes people think about that, make a gift in perpetuity. And it's one of those things that we should be addressing frequently in our formation and our conversation. Uh, it doesn't take a whole lot to plant those seeds of planned giving. Your pledge or commitment card should definitely have a little tick box on it. I've made my gift to the campaign this year, or I would like, I'd like more information on how to leave the church in my estate plans. I've already done this and I want to let you know about it. Questions like that help people understand that this is one of those things that they could think about. And if you don't have already a robust legacy program in your church, this is a place to start that. Remind folks that just like their annual gifts, a planned gift can come from very modest means, can be a very realistic gift. We often think of, if somebody's leaving the church in their will, it's about like naming a new wing after them or creating a big program. You don't have to have millions and millions of dollars to put the church in your estate. Modest gifts from regular people help make really robust planned giving programs, and all of them add to your endowment, which adds to your resilience. You want to make your budgets as resilient to the economy as possible, and endowments are a way to do that. So please don't forget the power of planned giving. Marcia writes in, we have no idea how to start legacy giving. Um, it starts small. First of all, TENS is going to be doing a webinar on this next year, but connect with me sooner than that and we'll help get you started earlier on it. But it starts small. It starts with people identifying that they're making gifts. Before you go through the whole idea of having an estate attorney and a wills writing workshop, let's get people interested in just the concept that they might want to leave the church in their estate, that this is something that we can do. And then later on, we can bring in folks, or maybe your diocese is doing this work and is willing to sponsor it in some way or another. I know that Charles Clowen is on this call. Charles, if you'll make yourself come off mute and let us know. Charles has been doing the Ministry of Planned Giving in the Diocese of Maryland for many decades. How do you start a planned giving program in a church?
Well, first, you on your pledge card have those two questions. Please send me information about planned giving. Or two, I've already remembered the church in my will estate. And then usually in the spring is a good time to really start the program because you want to mention it during the pledge campaign, but to do a real thing. Cathedral of the Incarnation, where I am, we have twice we recognize people in the Legacy Society. One is the Sunday after All Saints Day, and second is the fourth Sunday of Lent, where we have a big cake and we have a celebration and name the people. We have right now 37 people, households named in our society, plus 7 anonymous ones. And it's always good to begin with the vestry. Ask the question, what do you think about this, having a legacy society? recognizing people that have made a commitment in their will and estate plans. And it's the cathedral, I speak 4 minutes twice a year about this to remind people and say I'm available for consultation.
Charles, thank you, as always, for being a great resource for your work in your diocese, but also in the church.
And our diocese has a legacy society, which about 45 parishes belong to. Send their names in. Those people are invited to the cathedral for a special service. Again, to say the key word, 6 key words are thank you, thank you, thank you. Because people can change their will. No one ever left a church because they felt thanked and appreciated. And to me, that's the key with planned giving. To thank and appreciate those people that have done it and invite others to join.
That invitation, always there. Charles,
Yes.
thank you. You are a treasure.
Thank you, David.
Janice reminds us in the chat that ECF, the Episcopal Church Foundation, has a wealth of resources, and many of them are free. Some of them very modest. You can buy pamphlets and brochures, but they also do consulting for planned gifts. They also will manage your endowment for you if you select that idea. Episcopal Church Foundation is one of the great institutions of the Episcopal Church, and they have a great website full of resources on just how to get started. So Marcia, or people like Marcia who are wondering how to do this work in their church, listen to what Charles said, listen to what ECF says. You can do this work.
I'll include my name and email.
Thank you.
I'd be happy to send you a Episcopal Church Foundation interviewed me for about 26 minutes about the importance of wills and how to do that.
Yeah.
I'll be happy to send that to you. It's free. Just do it on your computer, over a glass of iced tea. And also how to create a legacy society. The dean of the cathedral and I did that too. I can send both of those to you free. And any way I can be of help, I'd like to be of help. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Always sharing your gifts. All right, one last thing to talk about as we move through how to create good stewardship practices in your congregation. I want to remind us all that online giving is not just the future, it's the present. And we need to have a way for people to make a gift in church, online, when they are visiting, or if they are members and they want to make their gift that way. The pandemic had a good side to it, I guess, which was it finally got us all online. And this was an important step in a lot of our churches who had been resisting for a long time. But now we know that a way to keep people's giving constant is to have an online presence and make it available to folks. Not everyone's going to take advantage of it, but for the folks who do, it's really good. This is particularly important for visitors. Were I blessed enough to show up in one of your churches tomorrow as a visitor, and if the only way for me to participate in the offertory were with cash, you'd get very little from me because I don't use a lot of cash. When I get cash out of the ATM, I end up spending it on things I wish I hadn't. So I use my phone or my debit card for almost all of my transactions now. So if you don't have a QR code in your bulletin or on a little laminated card, or you don't have a way for me to make a gift online, I am so sorry. I will not be able to be generous in that way with your church. So really consider this as a way to engage faithfully and respectfully your members who want to make online gifts. This isn't like having an ATM or a flashing light at the back of your church. It's not shaking people down for the coins in their pocket, but it's saying this is a way that people like to give, and there's a really discreet, easy way for you to pull out your phone. You probably have it right near your fingers anyway, and make a gift in church. See, I have mine right near my fingers. You can make a gift online in your church, put it in your bulletin, make it possible. Tens in our resource library, we have a whole article on pledge donation form best practices for your website. So we have some examples of really good ones and some not so good ones. We have some tools on how to create the best possible donation pages. And so take a look at that just for some ideas. Steve, I bet you have something to say about connecting people here.
Well, yeah, I did want to add one thing in particular about online giving for our online worship participants. So, and my own pet peeve, I never say virtual worship. It's not virtual worship, it's real worship. It just happens to be done online. And those folks, for a lot of them, they're people who actually will never come into your church. For some, it's the people who are away and can't get into church that week, or it's people who are, for lack of a better term, church shopping, and so they're learning about your church through your online worship service. They should be given an opportunity to give as well. And what can really help this sometimes is a lot of churches have the equivalent of an usher online or a greeter online, someone who's there who can answer questions, who can welcome everybody at collection time. They can walk people through online giving, and it that helps that service in general feel less like watching television and more like being part of the community, that broader online community. And so that is an element of connection, and giving is an element of collection, and you need to give your online worshipers that opportunity as well.
Great. Thank you. I love the conversation. Thank you for that, Steve. I think that's a really important point to make. I see some great conversation happening in the chat about different platforms to use. I concur with folks who are using PayPal and Venmo. PayPal is probably your very cheapest, least expensive. That's a better word. It doesn't have high transaction cost. A lot of people use PayPal for lots of things, and so they trust it. And so it's an easy one. Vanco, some congregations use that. I see Maine has a direct connection with Vanco. And by the way, so does TENS. If you go on our website in the membership tab and look for our Vanco partnership, you can get 50% off using Vanco for your church if you sign up with our link. And that's really great. It's a good tool, a really robust tool for online fundraising. So consider that. But there's Tithely, that's another really good one. So consider those. They make it really possible for them, and a lot of them have tie-ins now. I know Vanco and Tithely both have tie-ins to Realm, and I think Realm has its own fundraising component now too. So you can do all that kind of stuff if you're using Realm to manage other parts of your membership database. It can be a tie-in as well. I also want to answer Gail's question about her congregation not on board with laminated cards. I would wonder why. A laminated card in the pew rack that has a QR code for people to make a gift is a great way for visitors to engage that ministry. And then they can put that laminated card in the plate when it comes by, because that manual action that we have of actually making a gift is sometimes really important. So I like that. And then you bless those gifts when they come up to the altar, and then, throw the laminated cards back out in the pews for next Sunday. That's a really good way to do it. In my congregation, one side of that laminated card is to make a gift, and the other side is the contact. It goes to a contact form for visitors. That question, would you like a call from the rector? Would you like more information? Would you share your name and email address? So two sides of the card with two different QR codes going to two different places. They're really helpful, and we find it great. I would ask your congregation why they don't like laminated cards, and if they're feeling like it's icky or too needy or too pushy, to really talk about that theologically and socially. Like, what does this mean? Is this opportunity or is it not? So anyway,
Dave, Davey, I think those are both great ideas. Particularly, there really is something to that physical action of dropping something in the collection plate, and it's something we all grew up with. And part, when you're a little kid, mom gives you $1 to put in there. It makes you feel that sense of contribution. And I really, really love this flip side QR code that lets people fill out the visitor information. That's a great way of removing having to retype things, but also showing people that you care that they came today. And that now it's important then if they say, hey, I want somebody to follow up with me, somebody follows up with them and within a day or two. But that's a great way of engaging those people.
Thank you. Good conversation in the chat. I really appreciate that. Want to move on with one last slide here on best practices, and that's about meeting your members where they are and making the kinds of gifts that they want to make. Depending on where your income comes from and what kind of assets you're using to make your gift, we have lots of options for folks. Pledge and plate is a time-honored and proven way to do it, but there are so many ways that people these days are interested in making a gift to their church. So let's engage another lesson from our nonprofit siblings, which is donor-centric fundraising, meeting people where they are. If you have folks who are giving from retirement assets, remind them that they can use their required minimum distribution, or they can make a qualified charitable distribution directly from their retirement account into the church. This has some real tax advantages to it. So there's some really good reasons for folks who are living in retirement asset to do it that way. And to be clear about that. Some people use donor advised funds. They work something like a community foundation where a household or a family might set aside the gifts that they intend to make that year into a foundation that handles the taxes and all that. And then they make grants from that throughout the year. These aren't bazillionaires who do this. It's regular, modest households that engage donor advised funds as well. There's also some tax advantages to that and some ways that you can use that in estate giving as well. So consider accepting gifts from donor advised funds. It really makes sense for some members. Of course, our banks give us tools, automatic checks or ACH transfers or bank checks, things that you can set it and then it goes every 2 weeks or every month or however long you set those time limits for. There are some workplaces out there still doing matching gifts. And if you, a lot of them exclude your church pledge from being able to count in a matching gift. But if you make a gift directly to your food ministry or some sort of outreach program, often those will qualify for matching gifts. So consider making your gifts that way if you work for an employer that is doing matching giving, and that can just multiply your gift to the church. Finally, folks want to make their gifts of stock and securities. Even in this crazy market, there are still people who have appreciated securities, appreciated stocks. Avoid those capital gains, make that gift to the church through your stock. And it's a beautiful way to make an annual gift to your congregation and to make some good tax choices for your family as well. If your parish administrator or treasurer doesn't know how to accept some of these gifts, your diocesan finance office can walk them through that. If you don't have a brokerage, for example, your diocese does, and they can probably sell stock on your behalf and send you the proceeds, things like that. So think about if you don't have these tools available to you, your diocesan finance office or stewardship office, your canon to the ordinary, if there's no one else to contact, someone in your diocesan office can connect you to sharing those resources. We have some great conversation in the chat that is talking about United Way. Love that. It's another way to do some giving. And somebody's asked to speak on donor advised funds. So, donor advised funds work usually with a community foundation. In my city, the San Francisco Foundation, for example, or the Silicon Valley Community Foundation. They are clearinghouses or holding houses of donated money that members, people make their own gift to. They can add to it, and then they write grants from it. But unlike a family foundation that requires a high threshold in order for you to be able to start it and fund it, a community foundation just takes your money and then distributes it through the year. So if you know, for example, that you want to make $5,000 in gifts this year, you can use your community foundation partner to create a donor advised fund, and then you make grants from it to the symphony, to your school, to your church, whatever. And so it works that way. And it's just another way that some people are using tax-wise systems to manage their giving. What I want, what I hope you understand in this conversation is that many people want to make gifts in many ways. So let's help them make their best gift on their terms and not restrict them to only a couple of ways to do it. I want to circle back to a conversation that we had at the very beginning about pledge forms and people making one-time donations instead. And a couple of years ago, I had a conversation with a young woman who was very generous with giving to her church, but wouldn't sign a pledge form. And her treasurer was sort of frustrated. It was hard for them to figure out how to budget account for her giving, and they really wanted her to sort of tell them what she was going to do. And so I asked, why why don't you want to fill out a pledge form? And she said, with some emotion, I have a lot of debt. I have student loan, I have a mortgage, I have a car note. I don't want my church to be another debt contract. Big news, right? And I tried to say, this isn't debt. Your church pledge isn't a contract. It's a sort of different sort of pledge situation. But she said it felt like a debt contract to her, and she didn't want to sign something and and have this on the hook. I heard that, and I heard people like her who are facing different economic circumstances and are approaching money in a different way. And so what she did was make an annual gift, or she made a monthly gift, but she just didn't promise that she was going to do it. She did it. Okay, that's a faithful gift. And if that's how she was able to make her gift, then in church, we need to be able to say, that's a great way to give. Thank you. We accept that gift as we accept all others, and it all goes to our ministry. It all goes to doing the good work. So let's make certain that we are encouraging people to make gifts that make sense to them.
Davey, similarly, in my home church, where I used to be senior warden, we have a family who are among our largest financial contributors, but never, ever, ever pledged. But as it happens, they were not U.S. born. They're from a culture that resisted that kind of pledge culture. And I think your point underscores how we have to come to people where they are and not expect them to fit into the box of our expectations on pledging, but on everything that people are the sum total of their lives and their relationship with God and their cultural, and not everybody's going to think about this the same way that you or I might.
Yep. Thank you. Let's remember that we all approach the economy, our assets in different ways, and let's find ways to honor them. This list and an idea for providing this list came from me going to the symphony earlier this year, and on my seat was a list like this of all the ways I could give to the symphony. I was like, if the symphony's doing this, our churches can do this. So if you go into our resource library and our tools and practices section, you'll find a list like this that you can customize for your congregation, and you can have it on the back table where you put your information. Just remind people there are lots of ways to make a gift. I want to move us now into talking about money and mission so that we can give some practical ideas for how to start these conversations. This applies whether you're talking about your stewardship campaign or money in general throughout the year. But I want to give you a few pointers, and I've crafted these 4 particular scenarios for how to start conversations. You'll notice that they follow a formula, and this is intentional. The formula is the first thing. Why are we raising money? Why are we asking you for a gift? What are we doing with the money that we're raising? So describe that. And the second is I've done this. I've made my gift. I'm participating in this. I'm volunteering for this. I'm doing this work as well. And the third thing is, will you join me? This formula is really important, particularly the third one, because if we're asking people to make a gift to the campaign and we ourselves haven't gotten around to doing it yet, that's less authentic than, will you join me in making a gift? I've already done this work. I'm asking you to do it too. This is a little reminder to me and to you that our clergy, our vestry, our stewardship committee, our finance team, those gifts should be closed at the very beginning of our campaign, the day you launch. Those gifts should be in, because then you can stand up on your kickoff and say, 100% of our church leadership has already committed to the campaign. We're already there. We are all in. We are on board. We are mission aligned. We're ready to go. You're asking then everyone else to join you in doing something that the leaders, that's why we are leaders, are doing first. So make that a priority. Ask your vestry before stewardship kicks off, your stewardship committee, your vestry, your clergy, to fill out their form or to indicate that they will participate or to declare their intention to make a gift, whatever language you want to use, so that on day one you can say 100% all in. Now let's talk about these. When you're doing a renewal ask, you want folks to join the campaign and make a gift, and they've made one before. Remind them, like this first scenario does, we're raising more money for this or that, this particular one for our youth program, right? And our outreach to our elders and to help our community. I'm making this gift. My family and I have done this already. Will you join us in supporting the campaign this year? When we're asking everyone to stretch, make a stretch gift, and sometimes we do this, give them a really good reason. We're asking people to increase their giving this year because we're trying to grow in a new way. We're trying to start a new ministry. We're trying to strengthen this outreach. Give them a really compelling, simple reason why you're asking for more than you did last year, so that they get it, so that it's made for them. Then again, I've been able to do this. I've made my gift, and now I'm inviting you to join. This third scenario I put in to remind us that even when someone's having a difficult year, and we might know, maybe they've lost their job, maybe there's something going on in the family, maybe there's a medical diagnosis, whatever it is, we know that they're undergoing a tough year. Don't take them off the stewardship list. Don't take them out of your campaign. Still invite them to participate in a way that is healthy and right for them, acknowledging that it might be a difficult year, but that we're still asking you to participate in whatever way. Make any kind of gift you can. Don't make the decision for them that they don't want to participate, because that's insulting. Invite them in and they can make the decision. Now, there might be a couple folks on your list that the clergy say, I'm removing them, or I will ask them myself, or there's something happening here. let's pay attention to those extreme pastoral concerns as well. But in general, don't take someone off the list. Keep them on. Allow them to make their own decision. And finally, and I'll be asking my friend Steve for some pointers here. What do newcomers need to know about why you're asking for money, why you're pledging, how you run stewardship? What ideas, Steve, does Invite Welcome Connect have about what newcomers might need to make a stewardship decision?
Thanks, David. One of the things on this is I want to stress again that these kinds of conversations about real things are part and parcel of what we should be doing every single day of the year. And I know we hear a lot of stories sometimes about the newcomer comes to church, and 6, 8 months later, we're calling them to ask them to pledge, and their reaction is, "I've been here 6 months, and this is the first I've heard from anybody." You know that if if you want them to engage with you, you have to engage with them. And so acknowledging new people coming in, the storytelling we talked earlier about what the church is doing with the money. We know that there are a lot of perceptions, particularly among people new to church, that that churches are greedy, that churches hoard money. So to be open and honest about where that money goes, why we need it, why we're asking, and why we might be asking more than we usually ask. Whether it's a campaign for a new air conditioning system, or to elevate the online presence so you can serve the community better.
Yeah, but
Or
they're like the more comfortable version. I love it.
there we go. Or to otherwise, what impact will their money make with your church? And then physically, what's it about? If they've never gone through a pledge season before, they don't know what pledging is about. Am I signing a contract that says if I lose my job in 6 months, I still owe you this money? And the physical ways that people can approach giving, that we have an online giving, you have online ways of giving online. We'll still take a check, we'll take cash, but just explaining the process, what it's all about, because not everybody knows.
Yeah.
Those of us who grew up in church, we make assumptions, and that's part of our message, is not to make assumptions about people, to come and get them where they are.
Thanks, Steve. Really helpful. Newcomers might need budget information, those pie charts, how we make our money, how we spend our money, really important to have in maybe a newcomer packet when it comes to stewardship materials as well. They might need a little bit more information about how your church finances work. If they work from a tradition that the diocese funds the congregation and not the other way around, they might not understand that Episcopal churches are self-sustaining. So just assume that they don't know and provide them the information that they do. Before we move off this, there are a couple of questions that have come up in the chat. I've been asked to talk about how to express the need for pledging when it's simply to pay the minimum bills. My question back to you, Catherine, and that would be, is that why we're raising money? Just to pay the minimum bills? Or if it is that, a lot of our stewardship campaigns are keeping things going, right? They're just keeping where we're at. It's our job as leaders in the church to help people connect what the church is doing to spend its money and how that is changing the world. Whatever it is that you're spending your money on, if it's salaries and utilities and building maintenance, as well as mission funding, all of it is mission funding, because your church, your people, the utilities that you spend enable you to do that ministry in the world. So it's our job to connect our expenses with actual ministry impact. One way to do this is a narrative budget, and TENS has a great tool in our tips and tools section of the resource library on how to create a narrative budget, which takes those fixed costs like salaries, utilities, insurance, building maintenance, and teaches you how to run them into your ministry areas. So your youth program takes 10% of your clergy, 20% of your building, some percentage of your utilities, and that figures out and gets put into the column of what it takes to fund our youth ministry, what it takes to fund our food pantry, what it takes to fund our worship, what it takes to fund our community outreach. You create the buckets of your ministry and calculate those fixed costs across them and spread them into your ministry area. Now you are saying 100% of our dollars go to ministry. It's the same, the line totals in a narrative budget at the bottom as it does in a line item budget. It's just a different way of presenting the information so that people know that that money is going to mission and ministry. We have to do that job of drawing that connection line between them. Anne writes that they're only receiving about 50% of their pledged income. That's a really hard place to be. It means that there's been some real destabilization or uncertainty. And I would go back to, we're going to talk a little bit in the next slides about what to do when we're pledging for uncertain times. So I'll get more into it then, but we really have to help people upfront make pledges that are honest and authentic, and then help them understand throughout the year as their information or their lives change, how they can still address that and be creative with them. So we'll talk about that in a minute, Anne. I just wanted to flag that. And Audrey, congregations in search of a new rector, I will put at the end, or when I send this information out, a tool on stewardship in a time of transition to help you remember that we still need to run really good campaigns, even when there isn't a full-time permanent rector in place, because you want to make sure that you set the next person up for success and not give them a program that's been defunded through poor stewardship practices. But we'll talk about that. I'll send you a whole tool for that. Great questions. When talking about money in church, I want to introduce a concept called appreciative inquiry. This is a model of approaching our opportunities and our challenges by talking about what we already have rather than what we don't have. It helps us understand the strength of our position rather than our vulnerabilities or our weaknesses. Now, problems or vulnerabilities can be surfaced in an appreciative inquiry conversation, but we're not starting from there. We're not starting from everything, the sky is falling and everything's terrible. We're starting from look at the people and the connections and the relationships that we have. Let's see how we can harness that for our ministry. Some ways of doing that, and this again helps us focus that language on mission and not budget, but helps us focus on mission. So we provide you the resources in our seasonal and our weekly reflections that have these open-ended, wondering questions that unlock people's creativity. When we unlock creativity, we unlock generosity, and those are really important tools in a good stewardship or a healthy stewardship conversation. Ask those questions about what do you love about this church? What ministry really excites you? Maybe talk about that asset-based community development work, ABCD. What other nonprofits, schools, clinics, civic organizations, churches are doing work like we are in our neighborhood? Are there opportunities to partner, to reach out, to combine? And then I always want to ask a question, what gifts are you willing to share? And this is about not just your financial gifts, but did you just go to the British Isles and you want to come back and talk about Celtic spirituality to us? Do you want to lead a book group on something that's great? You love murder mysteries? I do too. Let's have a reading group, a knitting group, a bunt making cake group. Let's do this work. And if you have a skill and you want to do it, maybe you're great at organizing things and you want to work on a ministry or the food pantry or organize the street fair, whatever. We will find ways to engage you in the program if you let us know and we ask the question, what other gifts do you have to share? It's a really important question to talk about when we're talking about stewardship models.
This is so important, Dave. This is so important because we don't often think about our stewardship committee as being pastoral and about being connective, but those conversations, if they are transformational and not transactional, can really solidify relationships with congregants. To have those conversations where you don't, hi Joe, this is Steve. I was calling to see how much you're pledging next year. Is the wrong way to do it. It's a relational call. It's a call about, yes, it's couched in the framework of stewardship, but it's deeper than that. It's about making relationships.
Absolutely.
And stewardship is itself a way of relating to one another. And so again, we want to steer clear of making these conversations so transactional and making them more relational, more pastoral.
Yeah.
And then they have that added benefit.
Thanks, Steve. I want to talk about some challenges we might experience this year, and then we're going to focus in on what resources we have, and then we'll have a little time left for questions. But you've been great in the chat about asking questions. Thank you. Some challenges, and this leads to one of the questions that was in the chat earlier. How do we run stewardship campaigns when there's anxiety in the system? When there are news headlines that are bothering us, maybe there have actually been disruptions. How do we do this work? We remind folks that there's no shame in pledging less this year than years before. We want you to make a gift that's discerned, that's prayerful, that's reasonable, that's right for your family. And we want that gift to be sustainable. But also, like remembering folks who are having a tough year and including them in stewardship, let's also remember that not every household approaches the economy in the same way. Some families might not be struggling while others are. It depends on how they have their assets stored or where they make their money or how that's distributed to them. So keep that in mind that not everybody approaches the economy in the same way. So let's not make assumptions about our stewardship or how it will do based on the news headlines, but rather based on data and conversation, as Steve reminds us, on relationships. Remember that you're getting into some stuff when you're talking about money and faith. People might reveal more than their financial news to you or their ability to share their time, talent, and treasure. They might talk about things that are happening deep in their lives because we put a lot of stuff on our money. We put fears and successes and failures and joys and celebrations and future plans. All that's wrapped up in our money and our expression of it. So when you're talking about money and you're having an authentic faith-based conversation, people might talk about some real things. Know your own boundaries with that. Know when to involve clergy in those conversations. Know that you might be, as Steve reminded us, wading into some deep waters, and that's okay. Stewardship is how we share ourselves and our resources with each other. And that's about our struggles too. So don't shy away from those conversations, but know when to hand them over to our clergy so that they can follow through with them. If there's an actual scary budget looking at you, you're staring down the face of perhaps actual budget cuts or program cuts or staff cuts because of next year's budget, we still have to run great stewardship campaigns that are focused on mission, that help people understand that no matter the state of our church finances or the state of the world, the work that we do is needed in our community and it doesn't go away no matter our ability to fund it. So that might mean we need people to make more in-kind gifts or roll up their sleeves and volunteer more to make things happen. These are mission appropriate responses to a challenging economic circumstance. It's also not forever. These things come and go, but right now we still need to run a campaign. Don't hold back on your campaign. I get a question or two every year from folks who are saying, we don't want to run a campaign. Our budget is really scary. People are going to be really upset. How can we ask them for money if it's going to something they don't believe in? I'm like, well, our job is to help people remember that the budget isn't what we fund. It is our belief, in fact, that we fund. It's our mission and our ministry and our outreach to the community. It's following the prophetic call. That's what we do with our work. I also want us to talk about uncertainty. Life is uncertain. 2025 is very uncertain. Back in December, I had a conversation with a priest in the Diocese of Washington, and she said, we just ran our stewardship campaign. It was great. And then the election happened, and now we have people who are knowing that they're going to have to leave their job or it's going to go away. They're going to sell their house and move out of Washington, D.C. This is families, these are generations. Our stewardship campaign's falling apart even before it started. What do I do? And we talked a lot about how to focus on mission, how to help people structure gifts to make the best gift that they can now. And if their circumstances change, to plan for the future, to know that they can change that gift. Really important for us to focus on the now rather than the ambiguous future. Help us understand also that uncertainty is built in to our Christian experience, and we defeat that uncertainty with the sure hope of the resurrection, but also of the Easter life, that we believe in change, we believe in newness, we know that we will get through this. We've been doing it for 2,000 years. Want to go over a couple of slides quickly on recession proofing, some things we can do right now in our church budgets that we might want to consider, and that's taking a look at unspent money. You don't have to spend it now. You can put it off and it doesn't put you in a bad place of stewardship with your building or your resources. Maybe don't spend some of that unspent money in your budget. Save it, build some reserve. We don't know what the future is going to hold. They keep telling us we're going to go into a recession, yet we don't, but maybe we will. Let's just prepare for it so that we're not so anxious when it happens. I think this year we might want to forecast conservative campaigns. They'll still be mission focused, still be inspirational, but we might not want to communicate that we need everyone to grow their giving by 20%. That might be unreasonable in this year. So think about that and think about how we do that work. Whenever we're talking about the budget in church, we need to be really transparent with folks. It's their money, after all, that we're spending. It's their time that we're asking for. It's their ideas that we need to run our programs and to strengthen our ministries. So let's make certain that we're letting folks know if we're making decisions about the budget, how we did that. They all approved the budget at the annual meeting. If we're changing it or changing our approach to it, let them know how we're doing that so that they're not surprised. Last thing we want to do is surprise folks about what's happening with their money. Going back to Steve's point, relationship is the reason we do stewardship campaigns. And perhaps this year, if you have the people and the place to do it, every member canvas, reaching out to each member individually, talking with them about their connection to the community, their ability to share, their interest and willingness to share. These might be really deep conversations that are about transformation. How are you doing? I'm checking in with you and your family. I'm sharing things about me and my family. How are we doing together? What do you think of our church? How are we embracing this moment? These are great connecting points in our conversations. Let's look at our community partners, asset-based community development. You can go on episcopalchurch.org and take a look at the whole map of the Episcopal Church and where we are doing programs all over. It's amazing to take a look at the amount of work you all do in your congregations and show that and share that to the world. So take a look at our communities around us. Where can we make natural partnerships? Where can we collaborate? Maybe some of that results in a lowering of our own expenses if we can collaborate with a partner. Take a look at diversifying your income if possible. Share your facilities, rent your facilities. If you have a spare classroom that you can clean out and have a therapist use it for their practice during the week, think about diversifying our income. And finally, train your leaders. If you have any unspent continuing education money, think about community organizing, thinking about trainings about resilience and community response and asset-based community development. These might be really great things for your clergy and lay leaders to engage with if you've got resources and time to do that, because these are the kinds of leaders we need in a resilient, adaptive environment. I want to end just by sharing with you that our theme this year is about Tell Out My Soul. It's sharing the good news that we have in the world. That news that is so exciting, you cannot wait to share it, about your mission, about your ministry, about what your church is doing to save and solve problems in the world, and your engagement with that. So our campaign this year invites you into that storytelling to share our good news with the world. That's all the time for the slides we have, although there are a couple more that you'll get with you when I send them to you. I want to stop sharing my screen though and invite any last questions. I'm willing to stay as long as you are to talk with you today about stewardship or any of the things we've talked about. Invite, welcome, connect, any of the ways your church can become more welcoming and connect people into the mission. I've talked a lot. Let's you talk for a minute. And Marcia's ready to go.
Sorry, but could you repeat what you said about sending us something regarding a church that is currently searching for a new rector?
Sure, I'll send you a slide deck on
A slide deck.
stewardship in a time of transition.
That's just going to be attached to the whole thing, or?
Yeah, I'll send
Great.
you,
Great.
I'll put it in the materials that I sent.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. The recording will go out, if I get it all together today, it'll go out today. Expect an email from me from TENS with the materials in it. It'll happen today or it'll happen tomorrow after church. What other questions can we answer?
Do you have a link to where we could go and look at sample profiles, testimonials?
Wow, that's a good one. I don't have a link of good testimonials, although now I'm wondering why. So, does anybody have testimonials on their websites, their church websites, they'd be willing to put into the chat, or they've seen great testimonials out there? Steve, do you have any resources
Me?
on testimonials?
Oh, no.
Listen,
Yeah, Steve, go.
we do not necessarily specifically on stewardship, and I'd need to I can give you some links to include in the wrap up email when we send it, but I don't have them handy right now.
We'll get on that, but absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. What are some other ideas or questions you might have? These are great. You all have been really active. I appreciate it.
I'm sorry, I can't find where to raise my hand, but
Well, Bernadette, you're on, so let's hear you.
okay, my question is there a link where we can hook up directly with Invite, Welcome, and Connect?
I think if you open up the chat, Steve has put the links in there.
That's right.
Okay.
And we do make it easy. It's just invitewelcomeconnect.com.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But I will say one of the things we are doing a webinar series One, we're doing some webinars specifically on kind of the theology of Invite, Welcome, Connect, but coming up beginning in October, a multi-session webinar on for specifically for smaller congregations
That's
and how they can be better engaged in. And that one's going to be presented by our own Mary McGregor, who's on this call, and also from Jenny Fairs, who is with the Diocese of Southwestern Virginia. So
now, if our diocese is already hooked up with you, is there a way that we can access the printed material so that we can begin to understand it?
There's a lot of downloadable resources on our website, both for subscribing dioceses, but also open for free. We also always recommend reading our founder and creator's book, which is Invite, Welcome, Connect by Mary Foster Palmer. There we have on our website a free study guide for that book as well. So if you're interested in getting started with an Invite, Welcome, Connect ministry, that's sometimes a nice place to build awareness and to understand more about the ministry is to do a book study guide, a book study group on that, or come to our webinar on September 24, where we're giving an overview of the ministry.
And tell me again the name of the author, Mary
Foster Palmer, Parmer.
That's what I didn't catch. Thanks.
And those are available on Forward Movement, and there's a discount available if you buy in bulk. So if you're doing a group study guide.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Can we come in?
David,
Yes, my name is.
We have a hand up before you, so I'll come back to you.
Okay.
Let's hear from the good people of Alpena, a place that I love very much.
Hi, Davey. This is Rebecca from Trinity Alpena. Real quick, last year we participated with TENS in our campaign, and one of the things that we took to heart was telling the stories. And we actually, each month we posted a new story. Sometimes it was about a ministry, sometimes it was a testimonial about someone about why they attend our church and why they give. And so we did posters that we would post into the parish hall as well as electronically so that everyone could see it. I'm happy, Davey, to send a couple of examples to you if that would help in your resources.
Yes, I think we would love that. Thank you. Thank you. David, you had a question, and then Tom, I'll get to yours.
Yeah, well, this is my first time to join. A colleague, Raphael, actually registered me. I found it difficult to register and follow you, but he gave me a link and I was able to join you.
Oh, good.
Now, is this a one-time thing or is going to repeat? I heard you mention September 24th. Is that another webinar or what is that?
The webinar on September 24 is an overview of Invite, Welcome, Connect, which is a separate organization from TENS. But I know, Davey, you're doing a lot of webinars like monthly, right?
Yeah.
We'll take a break for this year, but we start up again in January with evaluating your pledge campaign. If you go to our website, David, tens.org/webinars, you'll see the whole list of next year's webinars posted and ready.
Yeah, can you just put that on the
I
chat
will.
box? Yeah, can you put that on the chat box and I can get that address?
I will. Thank you. All right. Thank you, David, for your participation. Tom, I see your hand up. Thank you for being patient.
Hi, yes. Tom from St. Dunstan's, Ellsworth, Maine. Hi, everyone. Sort of get into the weeds a little bit. The Venmo PayPal for direct payments are really interesting and a little scary. But what about just like direct debit card payments, like having the hardware, for somebody to just do a direct credit card.
Like someone calls in your church and says, "I want to make a gift using my debit card," or
I'm thinking of somebody in the church. It's like the QR code if it's going through PayPal, Venmo, or something like that. But if someone just says, "Oh, I've got my debit card. I want to do a $10." If you're doing the offertory, do you come down the aisle and say, "Yep, scan your card right here"?
Well, I wouldn't suggest that. It feels a little pay to play to me.
Yeah.
I don't think we want that. But I think the idea of so your platform, whatever that is, whatever link you send people to in a QR code or whatever, opens up the form so that people can enter. I mean, if it's convenient and it's going to a PayPal link, great. But it can also be if you're using Vanco or Tithely or something like that, it will open up a normal credit card field and you type in your info as you would like if you're making an online purchase, and enter your information that way. I wouldn't do, I mean, I know that at some point we talked about like card readers and churches and iPads, sorry, and people were doing that. And I think that's very specific to some congregations. And if you have an usher that is comfortable doing that and is standing in some place that's not between a person and the altar, that might not be a bad solution for folks who want to use a card reader to make a gift. But I think, the online tools really make it easier and less like I'm going up to make a gift sort of feeling. But it's certainly out there, and certainly there are some congregations that do it.
Thanks. Yeah, we use the Vanco for people to, if they want to just ahead of time set up their automatic pledge payment. So I'll look at what other tools they have.
Yeah, you can do in the moment giving through Vanco and Tithely as well. It's not just setting up in advance. For example, once you have a Tithely app on your phone, if I go to another city and I'm going to a church and I scan Tithely, if there's often an Episcopal church will be connected to it there. So I could just make my gift using my same old Tithely account. So they allow you to do in the moment giving as well. Great. I saw a question, two. One, how to suggest reaching out to former members. You know, if you have folks who are not in your location but are viewing you on online, looking at your live stream, as Steve mentioned earlier, your online usher, whoever is monitoring that Facebook live feed or something else can put in a code to help people make a gift. Um, and folks who have, if they're not a part of another church and they've left your community, they've moved away, you can still send them materials about your church. I wouldn't just send them the pledge card once a year. I would, throughout the year, be sending them information to keep them apprised of what's going on in church. If you're doing a newsletter, make sure they're getting a copy of it so that they're up to date on who you are and what it's been like since they left. And if they continue their giving relationship with you, that's great. But don't just reach out to them when it's time for the campaign and say, we haven't seen you in a while, but we hope for your gift, because that feels a little transactional. So thank you for that question. Nell wanted to go back to younger people. Again, online giving, 98% of Gen Z has made gifts online and are using online tools to do their charitable giving. 98%. So that's a good statistic there to let you know that our young members are online and they are comfortable making gifts online. By the age of 20, Gen Z has already made a gift to a charitable organization. 87% of Gen Z by the age of 20 has already made an online gift to a charitable purpose. When I was 20, I was not making gifts to charitable campaigns. So this is a really great statistic. They are generous, they're connected, and they're online. So make certain that you have really good online tools, but also be sensitive about that pledge form, right? A lot of folks do see it as debt contract. And I'm going to be progressive for a moment and say, we might want to look at the language of our pledge campaigns and say, it's real privilege that you can predict next year's income and make a pledge from it. If you are dealing with folks who are a part of the gig economy or seasonally employed, driving Uber or DoorDash or things like that, and that's how they're making a living, asking them to make a gift, know what next year's income is going to be like, might be impossible for them. But you do want to inspire their generosity. You do want them to be able to make gifts that are timely and appropriate for them. So being able to accept one-time gifts that happen frequently throughout the year is really important, and encouraging that as normative, as faithful giving, as absolutely fine is a way to do it. It's not just about pledging. Let's be really clear that not everybody is a salaried employee and can say for sure they're going to be able to make this gift next year. They get their money in different ways. Let's honor them and help them make their best gift in the time that they have to make it. I really love
Amy,
that
I
question.
saw that Amy Hanrahan had her physical hand raised. Amy, there she is.
Okay. Amy.
No, not me.
You do have to unmute, Amy. Let me see.
Sorry, I'm on mute.
No.
You're fine. I think.
I'm unmuted, right?
Okay, Amy.
All right. Well, I really appreciated the idea about connecting expenses with ministry impact across the line. And for example, my church has a wonderful Sunday school program. It's popular, and I was surprised to find out that many churches don't have any Sunday schools, period. So anyway, I was wondering, what's the best way or how or when to get these ideas across about how much particular ministries cost and take a bite out of the budget.
I really appreciate that question, because I think it's really important that we understand whether we're using it in our campaign or not. We understand what our ministries actually cost, and that's not just how much money they take, but how much they put on a strain they put on your building, on your cleaning, on your utilities, things like that is really important. So I'm putting in the chat now our narrative budget tool that helps you take your Excel spreadsheet and look at your funding in those ministry silos so that people can say, this is what it costs to run youth program. This is what it costs to worship. This is what it costs to run our yoga retreat, whatever it is, right? So that you're putting those costs not just in the program money they spend, but also in terms of clergy support. Some of their time goes to that. The light bill, some of that goes to it. The building maintenance, some of that goes to it. So you're really now looking at true cost of running ministry, and it just emphasizes every dollar we raise is to ministry. Line items are ministry as well, but it's harder to understand them because they just look like big things in a budget. But when you describe them as mission, then people can draw that line. I hope that answers the question, Amy. Thanks. Any encouragement, Tanya asks, for resources for treasurers or finance committees not accustomed to working outside the pledge paradigm? So I talk to treasurers who get worried when they are trying to figure out how to make next year's budget and not understanding or not knowing where all that money is coming from. People are making one-time gifts. And I say, let's start looking at patterns. If you notice that every year Davey makes about $2,500 in gifts to the church, you can maybe assume that that's what he is doing and plug that into next year's number. Now, if you really want to be transparent, you can ask me, hey, I've noticed that you make your gifts this way. Is that working for you? Is that convenient for you? Can we count on that? Something like it in this year's budget? I'm just trying to put the numbers together for next year. Now you're not at that point of sign on a dotted line or commit to it, but you're saying, I've noticed a trend. I'm paying attention to it. I want to honor you. This also comes up, by the way, with folks who have selected recurring giving in their PayPal or their Tithely account. I once, as a stewardship chair, was going back and asking someone, we didn't get your pledge form. Are you going to submit a pledge form? And he finally responded like, I do recurring giving. It's already done. Yes. Do I need to fill out paperwork again? I was like, nope, nope, got it. Thank you. And I just told the treasurer, put this into next year's column. This is what they're going to do. They're making a recurring gift. Sometimes people forget that they have to tell us that their gift is recurring and they intend to recur it. So think about that when it comes to how to help our treasurers understand it. It's okay to ask people questions about their giving in ways that are respectful, responsible, confidential, even, so that you can understand. I notice this is how you like to give. Um, can we expect that, or is that working for you? And that way you don't have to tiptoe around wondering what that answer is. But if you get no other information, just look at the trend and then say, I think we're going to get this from Davey next year. I think Susan will make that gift next year. And you can start to count on it that way. This is something we're going to have to figure out as the Episcopal Church gets younger. We are getting younger. So think about that. And more and more young people entering the system of generosity. Let's think about how we make sure that their gifts are connected. Catherine asks a question, should we have a line in a pledge card that says, I will give when I can, but I can't give an amount right now? I'd say no, because I think that's a little, it's like bargaining. It's like, I'm gonna do this later. And how can I say the amount right now? I would say fill in a pledge card with your relationships and your resources and your responses that you want to share, your time and your talent. Fill out that part of your pledge card. And then later in the year, when you know what financial gift you want to make, tell us or fill out another form. But I would say don't like ask people to say no to say yes later. Just say, hey, when you're ready, let us know and we'll start to put that in the system and count on it and send you reminders if you want them or whatever. So I think, again, just check in with folks. These are conversations we can have. Sometimes we don't want to wade into those because it feels weird, but they're really transparent, honest conversations we can have. Very easy to do. Not easy, I realize it's still some anxiety, but we can do it. Great questions. Thank you. Thank you. I see some other questions in the chat. Catherine, the narrative budget only does include monetary gifts. I'm sorry, we haven't figured out how to include in-kind or volunteer or things like that. But I think it's important when we report out how many volunteers does it take to run our youth program? How many Sunday school teachers do we have? How many, how many people show up at the food pantry, whatever, and talk about that. If we look at the name came and went, nationalphilanthropy.org, I think it's called. I will figure that out. They give a whole formula for figuring out what a volunteer is worth in terms of an hour of pay if you were paying them a living wage with benefits. Right now, it's like $34.09 an hour is what a volunteer is giving you when they donate their time to your congregation. So think about that. If your congregation relies on thousands of hours of volunteer work a year from your congregants in moving tables and chairs and setting up ministry and working your programs, then you're not paying because people are giving it for a lot of work. So I haven't figured out how to account for that in the narrative budget yet, but we need to report our numbers in volunteers and in-kind gifts as well, and certainly track that. Great. I see a question about folks who aren't used to pledge, and it could be Latino or it could be any folks in any constituency within your congregation that isn't used to dealing with pledge. And again, when we focus on generosity campaigns, on meeting people where they are, making the kinds of gifts, expressing abundance as they are culturally used to expressing abundance, and that's the focus, then we can create campaigns that are about generosity and not about the particulars of how to run a campaign. So think about that. Approach campaigns as asking people to re-enroll in their generosity and their own expression of abundance, to continue making gifts. And if it's just your commitment Sunday is people saying, I will, and I'll keep doing this, and here's how I want to engage, then you have a really good way of keeping that conversation focused on the future, but focused on generosity. Generosity doesn't need a form. It just needs an open heart and a willingness to share. So think about that. Different communities express abundance in different ways. Let's honor those. Carol says the Tell Out My Soul logo is contemporary. Do you have any insight to share about the design? It is very contemporary. We have a designer who works with us on every system. What we're trying to communicate in that, the light coming out from us, that open expression, that place where our soul is open to sharing its story. Hopefully you got that. Great, thank you. And it's a reminder that we give you logo and artwork in all of the forms, in English and in Spanish, so that you can run campaigns in the way you can. You've been amazing with your questions today. I know that we're like 23 minutes over our time. If there are any questions you're still willing to ask, I'm still willing to answer them. But I also want to acknowledge that you probably also have other things to do on your Saturday. Any last questions from folks? Wow, thank you. The work of stewardship is beautiful and it's difficult. It's not always, you're not always thanked by your church for engaging in this ministry, but I'm grateful to you and we are grateful to you. We could not do in the church what we do without you doing what you do. So know that you are loved and appreciated and your work is important. In the ways that TENS is here to support you, please connect with us. You can call me, you can email me, you can call Steve, you can email him. We are resources. You are not alone. We're doing this work together and the work is big. We know that. The work is huge. So lean on us, help us, we'll help you. Steve, do you have any closing words for folks?
Well, I want to thank you, Davey, for including me here, and thank everyone for your attention. As I say, please come to invitewelcomeconnect.com to learn more about our ministry and look at our upcoming events for webinars that we're doing. Lots of free materials on our site, and then there's an opportunity also to if you want to have a workshop at your location, or you want to subscribe to our on-demand materials, which is our training converted to an on-demand format. All that information is there, but we're here to help in any way we can. My personal contact information is on the website. If you call the number that's there, you get me. If you click the email that's there, you get me. And we're here to help you in any way we can. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Friends, have a beautiful Saturday. Expecting
Bye.
soon.
Thank you.
Friends, bye. Raphael, yes, we're sending the material to the workshop attendees. It's coming soon. Thanks, friends.